Good morning. I do not see myself on the talent monitor, so we'll work on that in a minute. I'm Jeff Noedel, Heather Spaulding with the Journal of the San Juan Islands, editor. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for being with us. There we go. We're getting there.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's Tuesday the 7th. It's 11:07, I think. And welcome to the fourth episode of What's Going On Around Here?
Hey.
Or hey, I'm sorry. Hey, what's going on around here? Big day today. It's election day. Heather will recap the big issues that are being decided today locally, and we'll talk a little bit about how you can make sure that your vote is cast today and your vote counts. But first, there's a very important piece on your front page of the Journal of the San Juan Islands today about Samish nation's fight against climate change. Really good interview with Todd Woodward, who is with their Department of Natural Resources, I think. So tell us about that story. And it's a story that you're going to want to, if you don't have the paper, you're going to want to get the paper and read more. But go ahead.
Yeah, so they actually reached out to me wanting to get some publicity on what they're doing. And it was kind of enlightening because I never stopped to think about the fact that each of the Native American nations, like the Samish, have their own DNR and similar government agencies. But they do. And so Todd Woodard is the director of the Samish DNR, and he was amazing to talk to. He grew up on the East Coast and loved the outdoors and moved over here and fell into working for the Samish Nation. And they are doing a lot of work to try to combat climate change, make sure their significant cultural sites are protected, and their cultural creatures of significance, one of which is southern resident orcas. That's huge to many of the tribes in the area, the indigenous people of the area. And I also want to mention that they are one of many tribes that once called this area home. And some kind of still do. I mean, they do, but some utilize it more than others. The Lummi, for example, have a designated cemetery on the island. I don't know if you knew that, but they do. So I just wanted to kind of mention...
On this island?
On this island.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Where is that?
That is on the northern...
Are we supposed to know?
You can know.
In Missouri, it's interesting. With the tribes in Missouri, they're not supposed to know.
Right. Well, it was actually pretty well publicized when they were trying to get it like a deeded cemetery. There was a big controversy that kind of happened around that, but I don't want to get into that right now.
Where is it,
but it's on the northern end of the island.
Cool.
And only they can visit that because it's actually on private property.
Right.
So I want to mention that too.
Right.
Anyway, back to the Samish. So they are one of many who once called this home and came out to the area and used it to find food, lived here, all that kind of thing. So they consider the southern resident orcas as kind of part of their family. So it's a big deal to them that they're struggling. Todd Woodard mentioned that for them, it is akin to watching a family member die, and they're fighting to save that family member's life. So I think that's kind of important to keep that in perspective when you're talking about, saving.
They don't see whales the way we see whales.
They don't see whales the way we see whales.
Right. And we need to respect that.
We do.
Do the tribes coordinate closely in their efforts, or are they mostly independent of each other?
They do coordinate. I'm not sure to the degree how closely that is, but I feel like it's pretty close. Like one project that he mentioned was a project in monitoring bird migrations. And I'm forgetting which tribe that they partnered with, but there was one sort of led the project and trained the other tribes to how to monitor the migrating birds and take part in their project. So.
Is Todd's department, does it coordinate at all with the state of Washington? Or are they independent of each other?
They are independent, but they certainly work together. And they also, one thing that I talked to him a lot about is the different ways that he works with agencies, nonprofits, and others in San Juan County. He works with the Permit Center a lot. He works with Friends of the San Juans. He works with the Preservation Trust. So they're all talking to each other and coordinating. Yeah, I was really pleased to hear that.
And what is if there's one thing that he feels that they really need, is it awareness, money, donations, cooperation? Are there problems? Are there obstacles in Olympia? What is the one thing that he really wants?
Awareness is huge. Yeah. And that comes in a really interesting way. So basically, if we're here on the island coming up with an idea, let's say the tourist destination plan, since that's hot on the table right now, what the indigenous people would like more of, and the tourist designation or the destination management plan is doing, is reaching out to them already and saying, this is our idea. What do you think about that? And that is very different from, here's a permit we're going to do. What do you think?
So that's the most helpful thing. Is in addition to awareness, is openness, collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Collaboration, keeping that conversation going and listening to what they have to say.
Well, it sounds like a great interview, and again, it's available today. Starts on the front page, continues to page 2, looks like.
Yep.
So get the paper, take a look. Speaking of the destination master plan or management plan or whatever the M stands for, what's happened with that since the October 31 closing of the public input?
Well, now the next stage is the Environmental Stewardship Department, and the steering committee for the plan is going to be taking all the comments and coming up with their recommendation and sort of refining the plan, if you will, because it's been in draft stages. So that is kind of the next step, and how long that will take is still kind of up in the air.
Last week you predicted a couple months.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, and then last week we were talking or asking or puzzled about the state of Amazon deliveries and logistics, and exactly how packages are going to continue to be getting to customers in the whole county, or at least San Juan Island. What did you learn?
So I talked to an islander who did quite a bit of research, and that was Bob Jarman, who used to be a fire commissioner here on the island. He's lived on the island for many years, and what he told me was that what's basically happening is SurePost, who has a contract with Amazon and is owned by UPS, is changing its delivery, and I'm kind of abbreviating this because there's a lot more to this than just this, but they are going to be dropping off their packages at the main hub of USPS instead of used to come to the island and they would drop it off at the Friday Harbor site. Now it's going to be to their nearest on-island site, which I think is in Burlington, and then it will come to our post office. That mostly is probably going to affect aeronautical, which is where SurePost used to deliver it, and they would carry it to the post office. They would get a lot of packages. So how much that's going to affect them is kind of up in the air, but that they will be getting less packages.
They?
Aeronautical.
Okay. So these packages will continue to be delivered to homes
They will be
by the post office?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if you have a P.O. box, they will go to your P.O. box, which is
Ha-
kind of what it has been doing. Yeah,
Has that begun? Is that already happening?
I believe so. Yes,
I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it is election day, but actually, let's talk about the elections after we take a little break. Throwing this at Jeremy with no warning, but we're going to take a break for some public service announcements. Is that right, Jeremy? Looking over the monitor. He's burrowing down now. So we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
You need some help?
Your tow chains are a little loose. Could spark a wildfire. I could show you how to secure them properly if you'd like.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. You should check out SmokeyBear.com. They've got a bunch of tips on wildfire prevention.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Growing up, food meant a lot to me because it was time spent with my mother and my father. As far back as I can remember, I helped my mother make Spritz cookies every holiday. There was always a meaning to each cookie we decorated. I get a little choked up when I catch a glimpse of the cookie press in the cupboards. It still brings back warm memories of time I spent with my mother when I was young. My mother today suffers from dementia, but just by seeing the Spritz cookies, it brings back memories that she may have forgotten. Taking time out to prepare meals and sit down and have the meals together is what the holidays are really all about.
There we are. We're back. Sorry for that little delay before the public service announcements. We're just getting better every week at this, but there will be commercial breaks. If you are an advertiser, I suggest that you get one of our TV commercials, which we will make. I'll do the first few for free. Few for a while. But we would be happy to do a video commercial for a local business. I believe in supporting local businesses, and I believe local businesses should be supporting the paper. So maybe for every 1/8 page that you, a new advertiser or an old advertiser that's been dormant, for a 1/8 page, if you buy an 1/8 of a page ad in the Journal of the San Juan Islands, we'll give you a free TV ad for a little while.
Ah, that's awesome.
How about that?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And again, before we get into elections today, we want to talk about the goal that you have for 2024, which is to go from 8 pages to 10 pages. I totally confused and screwed that up last week because I was talking about the big broad sheets of paper and how they fold, and you were actually talking about newspaper pages 1 through 8.
Right.
So sorry about that if anybody was confused by that tortured explanation of mine. It's simpler than that. We have 8 pages today. That's based on the amount of advertising. If we could sell the equivalent of about 1 page more of ads, then we can have about 1 more page of news as well, right? And, people, the beef on local small papers anymore is that, and everybody says it's too small, it's shrinking, and it's tracking with the advertising. So if there's less news, it's because there's less advertising. That is something that we could reverse, that we as a community could reverse. We could say that it's more important to have a professional reporter in the county courthouse, in public meetings, asking why all our buildings are going vacant, and asking tough questions, asking questions about Amazon delivery and all these things. We can have that if we support it. And you're not going to get answers to questions like that from Facebook, because Facebook doesn't have any professional trained reporters. Am I right? I mean, I think I understand this. Yep. And so if we want this, if we want to have professional reporters whose only job it is, you get in here in the morning, right, and you report. Yep. You 40 hours a week, and Isabel 40 hours a week. Is she full-time?
She's actually not.
Okay.
No, she's part-time.
Someday.
But
well, again, based on advertising.
Yep.
So it's very, very important to support the paper and keep professional journalists out there figuring this out for us and keeping politicians honest. So we need to sell about, in 2024, every week, 52 weeks, we need to sell an extra page of advertising, and then we can have an extra page of news. Am I
simple as
keeping
that?
it simple?
Yep.
Subscription revenue is great, but just to give you a little lesson in newspapers, American newspapers, your subscription pays for the printing, it pays for the delivery, it pays for the nuts and bolts of just putting the paper out, correct? Mm-hmm. But the advertising is the revenue for the organization. It is the profit for the owners, and it pays for all of the work, all of the reporting. So it's great. It's a very good value at $5.95 for every 4 weeks. But if you're thinking that revenue could pay for the reporters and reporting and all of that's not the way it works. So great, whether you pay for one issue at a time at your favorite location, or whether you have a subscription, that's all great, or whether you choose to read online, that's all terrific. But the scalable part of this is the advertising, and as there's more advertising, there's automatically more news.
Right.
And so that's what we have to do to get the paper to go in the other direction instead of shrinking, which almost all papers in the United States have been shrinking for 20 years. We can actually reverse that direction and grow the paper, and that would be a very good.
That would be amazing.
That would be a very good community achievement for San Juan County and San Juan Island in 2024. So that's the goal. That's very clear. And for a while, if you buy 1/8 or more of a page, I'll give you a free video ad. You can use it everyone. You can use it here. You can put it on Facebook. I don't care. But we'd be happy to do that. So
it's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for putting out a great product and keeping everybody honest. That's good. So Election Day is today. You still have half a day to get your vote in if you haven't. It's pretty simple. You find your ballot, you mark it up, you seal it up, and drop it in a box. Right? That's all there is to it. It's no more standing in lines or voting machines or any of that stuff. So talk about the deadlines, though, today.
So today you need to get your ballot to the ballot box outside the courthouse if you're on San Juan Island by 8 o'clock tonight. And if you vote by mail, you need to get that into the post office, and they close at 2:30. So I want to make sure that both these things are done.
And, any island that you're on, make sure it gets postmarked today. Right. It must be postmarked today. If not, and it's important to you, and it should be important to you to get your vote counted, you're going to need to get it to a box. I guess worst case, that might even involve a ferry ride, but if you've missed the ability to postmark that ballot. But that's what still has to be done. And what are the big issues or elections that are being settled today?
So today, there's two on San Juan Island, and that is the Fire Commission. We're voting for a Fire Commission, and we are voting for a Port Commissioner. On Orcas, I believe it is a Fire Commissioner. I don't think they have a Port. And Lopez, I don't think they really have a lot going on. So that, it's our Port and our Fire throughout the county that we're voting on today. Those are the big issues. Everything else on the San Juan ballot, or at least on my ballot, was unopposed positions. So there was a bunch of school stuff, school board members that were unopposed, and I think there was, in town, I think there is also a town council being determined, but I think that is also an unopposed person at this point. The person that was running, one of the people that was running dropped out.
So one of the, over the last few weeks, you've done some nice comparative interviews with the candidates to see where they stand. Can people still get to those through the website?
They can, yeah.
Just search, what would they search for?
They would search for the Fire Commission candidates or the Port candidates.
Okay.
And that should pop right up.
And, you know, for people who know this island, those are two important positions. The people feel very strongly about the fire department. They feel very, very strongly about the port. So anyway, that's, you still have the opportunity if you're watching live. We are broadcasting live, and you've got still now a couple hours to get it into the postal system on San Juan Island, and you've got till when, 7? When does
8.
the 8 to get it into one of the boxes on Lopez, Orcas, or San Juan Island. Also, let's talk about Veterans Day coming up.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is interesting about both Veterans Day and Memorial Day in San Juan County is we don't talk about, this county feels like it's so far away from war. We're in the middle of, you know, essentially what feels like a paradise. But if you look at World War II for sure, we had a number of soldiers and we lost a number of soldiers in that war. Higher than many of the other counties in Washington State. And that kind of led to what is now Memorial Park in Friday Harbor, which is that circle park. You drive around when you very first come to Friday Harbor, and there's the elm trees that are not in very good health right now. There is a fountain and a plaque that has many of the soldiers' names on it. So I just think that that is something that we should kind of think about on Veterans Day as we remember and think about our veterans. I think the Census Bureau says there is about 10% of our population in San Juan County is veterans.
Really?
Yep.
That's good. So it would be nice to see maybe a few extra visitors.
Yeah.
Stroll down to that little circular park and just look.
Yeah.
Look and listen to whatever you think it's saying and respect and appreciate. Yeah. I don't think we can do enough for veterans. I personally don't. The CNL 1 back in Missouri, we spent a great deal of time covering veterans. We also covered every full military honors funeral that we knew of, that we could get to. But we can't forget. We can never forget the sacrifices that were made. And it's, you know, the way the world's going and the way the country's going right now, it might be good to just kind of stop and remember how much some people gave, and including people that are still with us, to keep this system going.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
Yep. We do have a county Veterans Advisory Board. So if there are people out there that need resources, veterans out there, if you know a veteran that needs resources, that would be a good place to start looking. They
Great.
are available.
Excellent. Excellent. And finally, we talked also last week about the availability or lack of availability of COVID vaccines, the new round of COVID vaccines on San Juan Island. And the paper's been working on that, working on understanding
We are
that.
working on it, yep. So
So-
there will be a fairly large, I think, article next week about that. Yeah,
From Isabel,
from Isabel.
great reporter, so we look forward to that. So get your subscription all in place so it comes to you right away. But yeah, we'll look at that. I had to go off island last Wednesday to get my shot. I just couldn't wait any longer. And it didn't look like anything was coming here anytime soon. So
Right.
I can tell you it's, I think it's unfortunate that it's probably easier for me than some people to give up a day
Yeah.
to go run around to all of the drugstores in Anacortes, which is what it was. Had a reservation at one that didn't take my insurance, and
Oh, no.
it looked actually for a minute like the whole trip was a waste. Lost a day's work, the ferry fee, and all of that, and it looked briefly like I was going to be sent home without the shot. And then at the last minute, one of the three big drugstores there, I guess, Safeway, Walgreens, and Rite Aid. There might be others. I'm sorry if I don't know. But
I think Costco, is it Costco that does one, maybe?
in Anacortes, I mean, we could have I guess headed toward Mount Vernon and Burlington and probably found something. But I mean, is that how we want to
That's-
do this?
Right.
Is this public
That's
health?
the point.
Public health. I mean, sorry, we can't help you here. Run over to Skagit County and find someplace. And it was kind of whack-a-mole, and there wasn't clarity. I remember the Walgreens person said, and by the way, the pressure that drugstore employees are under right now is incredible. They're understaffed. They can't even take lunches, or when they take lunches, it tends to shut down the entire drug department, the entire pharmacy department, because they're that short-staffed.
Right.
And they're doing their best to not get too testy and all that. But the Walgreens person told me when I didn't have the right insurance that the only way to find that out was to make the appointment, go there, and then be told that in person. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So,
Yeah.
I got mine, but I still care. And I think last I saw American, only 7% of Americans had been vaccinated with the new vaccines. And whatever you think of vaccines, you can hate them, you can decide that they're not for you, that's fine. But for the people who want the vaccines,
And don't have
it's
access.
just about impossible. And I guess I'll show a little bit of my own personal politics, but I think what we're seeing here is the difference between the way the federal government ran this and the way private industry is running this. When the federal government ran this through the states, everybody that wanted a vaccine got a vaccine. And now that the government, for reasons that I don't quite understand, has withdrawn from this, and the state government has withdrawn from this, this is how it looks. This is how it goes. There's some people talking about wanting to privatize the ferry system. And I say, look at how COVID went. Look at how the COVID vaccine programs went. How do you think private industry would run the ferries? So there are many, many problems. I can turn anything into a discussion of Washington State ferries.
That's what happens when you live on an island.
That's right. If you want to see how, if you think the ferries are struggling now with state subsidies in place and huge, maybe too huge of a central office and all that, just imagine how this would go if it was turned over to the private sector. Not good. not good. And what's going on right now, in my opinion, this is an editorial comment by CNL2 founder Jeff Noedel. Sorry, but if you want to see how it would go with the ferries, look at how it's going with COVID, which I think is not very good. If we're still in the tail end of a pandemic, which I hadn't heard that it's over.
I haven't heard it.
Last time I read, I checked a week or 10 days ago, we're still losing 92 people in this country dying from this a day.
Oh my gosh.
Down from the week before, I think 120. It bounces up and down, but
Yeah.
and that's not even dealing with long COVID, and that's not dealing with even the short COVID that knocks you out of work. I guess I don't mean to sound pro-vax. I respect people who decline the vaccine. I really do. I understand. I think we get that now. I think we can see that.
Some people just don't
That
want
it's
it for whatever reason.
It's real, and that decision has to be respected. And I'm drifting all over the place now, getting us into all kinds of trouble. But a lot of people I know on San Juan Island, I know this is to be true. A lot of people in San Juan Island are starting to wonder if the state's reaction to the people who declined vaccines was the right thing for the State Patrol and was the right thing for the ferry system, because we are still suffering from understaffing in those areas. So, I can sound like a big old liberal and say everybody should have a shot, but I could also say I think we maybe have learned some lessons about, and the experts say that there are other pandemics out there that could be waiting. So we need to think about what we've learned from all that. But anyway, I'm one who did want my vaccine, and I'm one who had to go to what I feel like are, certainly compared to the past, extraordinary measures to get it, and almost didn't get it on Wednesday. So I look forward to what Isabel finds. I got my shot. I got my flu shot, but
Did it knock you out at all? Did you have
a little bit. It was delayed. Every one of these is different. I guess this is like my fifth or something, and you never know. But the flu shots are the same way. It's like it affects everybody differently, and but in my case with this one, it was a little bit delayed. It was like after the first day, it's like, oh, I guess I'm not going to feel anything, and then the second day, it's like, oh, there it is.
There it is.
But it wasn't really bad. The one thing I would say though is that I do know people in Friday Harbor on San Juan Island who have gotten COVID, and it knocked them down.
Yeah.
In one case, a man in his 30s and in very good health, sailor, about 2 weeks. The old kind of COVID response, and he had some vaccines. And then another was somebody who seemed to be affected, badly for a few days. So this is still real. And if you are the kind of person who gets vaccines, flu vaccines, just to avoid a few days of the flu, then, which I am, then it still makes sense to do something that I could avoid a few days or weeks of COVID. So that's why I do it. Yeah. But if you decline, fine. I'm just concerned about, is 7% really all of the Americans that want it? And I don't think that's the case. And so anyway, we'll see what Isabel finds.
We'll talk more about that next time.
Yeah, and I'll spend the rest of the week apologizing for the last 5 minutes. Sorry, but that's what I think. That's what I think, damn it, and that's what we do here.
There we go.
Hey, what's going on around here, right? Thank you, Heather.
Thanks for
we
having
stirred
me.
the pot. Go vote. Vote today. You now have 2 hours left to get it into the post office. I have no idea what time it is. We have 2 atomic clocks, and they're both wrong. So I mean, one of them's like 2 hours. One of them says it's already closed. Yeah. So according to one of our clocks, the post office is already closed, but it isn't. We've got a couple more hours. So thank you for joining us. We slogged through another one, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.